Armin murdered Brandes to fulfill his own sexual desire, and that there's no way that Brandes could have been able to consent to any of this under the influence of all of the drugs and alcohol that were in his system.
Okay, but he took them later.
Yeah, well, because he had, agreed to it in these emails, and then he went over there willingly, and they hung out, and they did all the things that they did, and then he went and he took all that stuff himself to, get ready for,
the end result, yeah.
To get ready for Snacky Town. So, May 10th, 2006, a court in Frankfurt convicts Meiwes of murder, and they change his initial 8.5-year sentence to life imprisonment. That is what happened there. Apparently now he's doing his thing in prison, and he's super into the Green Party, and he's, into politics.
Okay.
From prison, which I just think is really funny.
That's a bit strange.
I think he's a vegetarian, too, now
if I remember correctly from your first story, it was like that, yeah.
I know that we've talked about this several times, but there's a German band, Rammstein.
Oh, yes.
And, they sing America, and they sing that song Du hast, and they wrote a song about this, and it's called Mein Teil, which translates to my part or my penis.
Yes.
And the whole song is just about this case. And the music video is so weird. So if you just want to be really horrified but also laugh a little bit, watch the music video for Mein Teil. I'm going to read you just a couple lines from the song.
Okay.
So these are obviously the English translated lyrics because it's all in German.
Right.
But it starts out with, looking for a well-built 18 to 30-year-old to be slaughtered, the master butcher. Today I will meet a gentleman. He likes me so much he could eat me up.
Oh my gosh.
Soft things and even hard ones are on the menu.
Oh my goodness. That's really silly.
So that was my stories.
That was my stories. So today I'm going to tell you about the Château de Brissac. This one has a lot of pop culture history too that you'll like.
Oh, I like that.
I know. A castle that's located in Brissac-Quince in the department of Maine-et-Loire in France.
Fancy. Francy pants.
I'm not going to pronounce things right. I don't care. It's just south of the city of Angers, and it's in the Loire Valley of France. It's supposedly the tallest castle in France, and is listed as a monument historique by the French Ministry of Culture. It was originally built by the Count of Anjou during the 11th century. After the French had claimed victory over the English, King Philip II had given possession to Guillaume de Roche. It was later rebuilt as somewhat of a fort by Pierre de Brissac, a wealthy chief minister of King Charles VII of France. In King Francis I's reign, the property transferred to René de Cossé, who acted as a governor of Anjou and Maine. In 1589, Henry of Navarre, later Henry IV of France, came into possession of the castle during the French Wars of Religion, a prolonged war period between the Roman Catholics and the Huguenots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. During the time, over 3 million people were estimated to have died from violence, famine, and illness, and it's considered one of the second deadliest religious wars in European history, second only to the 100 Years' War. Because of the violence of the war, it was badly damaged, and after Henry had become king, it was given to Charles II of Cossé, later the Duke of Brissac, as a reward for his support during the war, even though the castle was originally scheduled to be demolished. Here, have this hunk of garbage. Thank you for supporting me.
France is really good at giving people hunks of garbage.
The new duke had to rebuild and repair the damage and was given funds from the king. And throughout the renovations, it became the tallest chateau in France. And its facade is reflective of the 17th century Baroque architecture.
So fancy.
Fancy. Cossé had married into the Brissac family and had acquired the Chateau Montreuil, although they sold it eventually. King Louis XIII and his mother, Marie de Medici, had met on neutral territory to talk over a temporary truce that ended when the Queen Mother was banished.
Oh, okay.
They met here.
If it ain't Baroque, don't fix it.
Don't do that fucking hand thing at me. You dummy. As many royals, Charles' descendants had lost the chateau during the French Revolution, where it was damaged again from the fights, and a lot of people came in to ransack it. Makes sense. French Revolution was tumultuous.
I know, yeah. I think that's such a fascinating time in history, but also rude.
Yeah, rude. It laid vacant until the 19th century, where in 1844, the Cossé-Brissac family, or the Dukes of Brissac, had reclaimed possession and repaired the damage. The 7-story building is still owned and maintained by the current now 13th Dukes Charles d'André de Brissac, and it's open for guests to stay on the property and take tours as well as visiting the Gilded Theater during the Val du Loir Festival. Notable events that have happened closer to the current days include temporary housing from the Iron Chef French battles in the 90s, and was recently a location for a Brazilian celebrity magazine called Caras.
Nifty, okay.
Wait, you watch Iron Chef, don't you?
Yes, I sometimes.
I watched one of them and they had duck hearts on them, and then having someone explain to me what they taste like took about 40 minutes.
It's not for everybody. I enjoy it because it's like top of the pops. It's about as fancy with your food as you can get.
Top of the pops.
It's one of those things you watch when you're going to bed because sometimes it just gets so boring that it knocks you out.
Oh, I don't think I've ever really gotten interested in it. It's fine.
Yeah, I like the host of it, the chairman. He's adorable.
No idea. Even now, when people visit, they notice the decor, obviously, that's been, like, replaced. It has super ornate golden ceilings, Flemish and Gobelin tapestries, and a giant park as well.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, it's very pretty. Just so you know, also, it does actually have its own estate wine bottled in the Château de Brissac, which I also want to try, because I like wine. I like me some wine.
I mean, we're pretty big fans of it.
Apparently, you can be received for meals in the kitchen, but you have to make a reservation, which, easy peasy. That's not hard. Do that. Why wouldn't you? I ate in a castle in Werin Island. Still want to eat in a castle every day.
I mean, yeah, so did me and Chevy. It was pretty magical.
Yeah. You weren't on south, you were northern, right?
We basically did, like, from the middle to, like, the south.
Oh, so you're by Cork.
Yeah, we went to
Cork. It may have been the same castle.
Was it Bunratty Castle?
Maybe.
Yeah, it was really fun, though, and there was a lot of mead, and at the time, I really enjoyed sweet things, which I don't so much anymore, but I'll still have a glass of mead every once in a great while.
I do like, and Celtic Crossing.
Yeah, what you've told me about sounds great.
You can't have more than like a little bit of it, though. It's too much.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to tell you about, and I saved this. I didn't want to put it in the timeline, because this is why it's possibly haunted. You'll like this one because it's like listening to a reality show.
Wait, the story is going to be like listening to a reality show?
Jacques de Brissac was the Grand Seneschal of Normandy. He had inherited the chateau and married Charlotte of France. Charlotte was the illegitimate daughter of Charles VII and Agnes Sorel, who was a former employee of King Rene. It's so strange, too, because it's notoriously known that if it's an illegitimate son, daughter, whatever, they're usually pretty much shunned. For whatever reason, everyone absolutely adored her, and even King Louis XI, Charles' son, absolutely adored his half-sister. All of them were real into her being cool and stuff. Apparently, their marriage was incredibly unhappy, and she was very, very unfaithful in her marriage to her husband.
Oh.
Apparently, one day he had discovered her in the arms of one of her huntsmen.
One of her huntsmen?
Yes.
In the throes of passion?
In the throes of passion.
Oh my god. You're right, this is turning into a reality show.
It is a thing. I like how you're getting all juicy details ready is what you're looking like. Apparently, a lot of people think that it's a politically motivated marriage. Even, who knows, more likely than not. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. It's the right time period, man.
Yeah.
Get it. Neither of them loved each other. They really didn't have that much in common, so he did a lot of outdoor activities, like hunting and, doing general man stuff. And she just kind of chilled out and did the more sophisticated things, parties and such. And
hung out with huntsmen.
Sometimes.
Why do they always stay in unhappy marriages?
She was happy. She was fucking people. She was like, I don't care.
Yeah, also living it up in a chateau.
Yeah, she's making her way downtown, walking fast.
Thank you for that Vanessa Carlton reference.
A lot of people said that they did not even sleep in the same bed. Once again, not really uncommon in this time period either, having separate bedrooms. It doesn't mean that you have to stay in the same bedroom, even to this day. Doesn't matter if you stay in the same bedroom. Do you still care about each other? Sure.
So neither one of them were into each other?
Apparently not. On May 31st, 1477, he returned from hunting, had dinner with his wife, and then went to his room. Because they didn't sleep in the same room, a servant had come to awaken him in the middle of the night to tell him that his wife was having another affair with a man by the name of Pierre de Laverne. He found them red-handed, in a fit of rage, murdered the adulterous couple.
Do we know how he did it?
I mean, well, okay, there's two different kind of stories on it. One of them said that he he had dealt over 100 blows with his sword. There's other ones like he beat them to death with something else, and then there's other like he just stabbed them.
Oh my goodness.
Apparently, when Louis XI had found out that Charlotte was dead, because obviously she was his beloved half-sister, he was furious, as you would be, and threw him in jail. He was in prison for several years. Louis had convinced the court to sentence him to death and take all of his lands, but Jacques had been spared by Charles VIII, and all of his titles and lands were returned to him. Apparently, he moved out because he wasn't really feeling super solid about staying in the place where his wife was fucking a bunch of dudes, and he murdered them. One of the reasons that people say that he moved out, besides his wife cheating on him and him murdering her and her lover, was that he couldn't stand the moaning that was still happening that sounded like his wife's and her lover's moaning that would resonate through the house.
Oh my goodness.
People say that the ghost of Charlotte remains there, which obviously would the moaning, and there's no reported sights of Pierre's ghost, but they call her the Green Lady. They get frightened by her, and apparently her favorite place to be is the tower room of the chapel, where she's standing in her green dress. Her face has holes in place of her nose and eyes. People still to this day hear her moaning in the early hours of the morning.
I mean, it's terrible and sad because she got murdered, but it's also like, get it, girl.
Even when she was still alive, she'd mess with him and go and talk to people in front of him and flirt very openly. Just to drive him nuts.
Well, and also, you guys aren't even into each other.
Yeah, but it is embarrassing.
Oh, I mean, I could see that. But it's like, homie, like, just go forge your own relationships. Like, she's with Pierre. Why don't you get with, I don't know, Bernadette? Get with Tiffany. I heard she's a nice girl.
She apparently wears the green dress because it was her favorite, and she said it complimented her red hair. Apparently, she moves around and scares some guests, and she resembles a corpse. So it's not even just that she is a spooky ghost that's going to show up.
I mean, yeah, when you said she's got holes in her face where her nose and eyes are, I was like, oh, I'd be scared shitless if I saw that.
Yeah. Pierre is never shown. Her lover is never in the space. But someone's helping her out because, like I said, there's moaning that's heard throughout the castle. That's not just ooky, spooky ghost moaning.
Yeah, he didn't stick around. He was not as invested into that relationship as she was.
Well, to be fair, it doesn't seem like she was very invested in most of her relationships because any of the information I read about her before was saying pretty much that it just didn't matter.
He moved on.
He moved on. So that was it. Like I said, it's a little bit short, but...
It's a good story, though.
I said it's like reality show. It's like ghost reality show for you.
Man, I'm just picturing her being all like spooky and corpsey, just like popping in. And like, especially like in the chapel, you know?
Yeah, she hangs out.
Yeah.
I'm picturing waking up in the morning and being like, again with like that bad roommate that you have that's always just like weirdly taking home people.
Yeah, you've got the broomstick, you're like not tapping on the ceiling and stuff.
Enough with the moaning, quiet it down. Some of us have to work, bitch.
Knock it off up there.
Yeah, there it is. So you did true crime. So you owe me a cheers.
That's right. Grab yourself a sandwich or a beverage or anything that you'd like to cheers us with, just not water because it is bad luck.
Yeah, sandwich.
Mm-hmm. And my cheers is going to be in German because it's another quote from Mein Teil, and it's very straight to the point.
Okay.
Du bist, was du isst. You are what you eat.
Oh, God.
Cheers.
So cheers. I'm a lot of butter.
So with that being said, if you would like to cheers with us on social media, you can find us on Instagram, where we are Shots in the Dark Podcast. We are on Facebook, where we are Shots in the Dark Pod. We are also on Snapchat and Twitter at Shots in the Dark P. And we do have a Patreon account if you would like to help support the show and make it even better, but also help out the community, because we would like to support other podcasts. That should be a bigger deal and eventually be able to help out some cool charities.
Yeah, and are humans that deserve it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
We also are obviously on iTunes and Google Play and Spotify. What really, really matters is that you guys leave a review on iTunes. Hopefully 5 stars, but we get it if you're not into it. But also just email us at shotsinthedark podcast@gmail.com. And maybe tell us what we did wrong. And then we'll try to fix it.
Or just be like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, any of the things. We like chatting with people.
Yeah, we do. And I'm really excited that we've been connecting with more people that listen to the show.
So, hello.